open up the screens for the chat and participants. Welcome, this is the Drupal usability meeting for November 12th, 2021. I'm Benji Fisher, sharing my screen and moderating, and also present at the meeting are Erin McHale, Ofer Shal, Ralph Kohler, and Thomas Howell. A smallish group, but we do have a variety of front and back end developers, site builder. And so I guess to start, there's an issue that Lee Rollins asked us to look at. It's 2779185. The title is Node Edit Prompts Invalid Date for Blank Time in Authoring Information. I have not had a chance to look at this yet. Has anyone else?
I had a super brief look at it, but not enough to understand what's going on here.
Okay.
I also did a brief look and was unable to figure out a clear difference between the before and after, to be honest, except the authored by part.
Okay, so when a user is editing content, the help text says leave blank to use the time of submission. This could be misinterpreted such that a user empties the time, but not the date. This then results in an error. So steps to reproduce, visit the node add form, and that's what this screenshot looks like. Yeah. Open the authoring information sidebar, remove the value from the field, from the time field, submit the form, and note the error about the invalid date. And the proposed resolution is to update the wording. Note, it appears that this wording is different on 9.3, so there are already some other changes related to this. So let me see. I'm starting up test Drupal site. Which is running perhaps not the latest version, but some version of 9.3. Sorry, I'm in the middle of Composer install. So let's see, do we have a proposed resolution? Update the wording. So the current wording just says format, date, time, leave blank to use the time of form submission. And I see what you mean. I don't see any difference. Leave blank to use the date and time of form submission. The original wording is leave blank to use the time of form submission. So I guess the idea is that you have to zero out or blank out both of them in order to leave it blank. I mean, I kind of think that a better fix would be not to have an error.
But isn't the requirement that the fields be filled? So it's trying to, like, it can't actually save it without the time because it isn't a date field. It is a date time field. So it needs all values. I kind of think it would be easier if rather than leave blank, it was check a box or something that essentially automatically removed the values and changed the behavior. So it would manage both fields at once rather than using a blanking mechanism.
One suggestion in that regard. Might it be an idea? I like the idea with the checkbox to start with a checked checkbox. So per default, use the current date and time. And if you uncheck it, you get the two fields to fill out the date and time of your desire.
You could even make it a configurable field. So you could default with the check on with a standard install, but if someone wanted to change that behavior, they could change that behavior.
Yep.
I think, yeah, I like that.
I noticed from the screenshot that it says authored on 2016-08-05. So I'm guessing this issue has been around for a while.
Either that or someone likes to time travel.
Yeah, so I think there's precedent in other systems for having like a button or a checkbox or something that allows you to quickly set the time to now, or to the current time, whatever you want to call it, or even empty it. I think that the implementation, we have to be careful with the implementation there with something like that, because when you create a piece of content, like an article or something, on the create form, that will be blank. And when you save it, it will populate it with the current date and time. And then when you go to edit it in that field, you'll see the date and time as it was when it was first created. So if you then go and take out that date and time, again, you save it, it populates a new date and time based on now, and the same thing, you'll next time you go to edit, you'll see it. So with a checkbox, we wouldn't be saving the state of the checkbox. So even if you check the checkbox to say like use current time or leave empty or whatever, when you go back to the form, the checkbox would be unchecked. It wouldn't have saved the state because the time will be like, it's not like we would want that to always be updated. So unless it's a checkbox that's entirely client side, like you click it and then it immediately updates the field and then unchecks the checkbox. But at that point, we're really leaning towards more of a button than a checkbox, because with the buttons, you don't have a state like that gets saved on or off. And I think the pattern it's usually used is like, yeah, there's like a button next to it that's like set to now or clear or something like that. I mean, the thing that opens actually when you click on those fields, isn't there like a calendar that opens that might even have a now button? Or is it? Oh, this is all native browser, isn't it? So it depends on your browser. It's like we don't use the jQuery one anymore, do we?
It's browser dependent.
Yeah.
I think you're right. I think we decided that we should not be fighting with browsers over things like this.
Yes.
Okay, so this is a fairly recent version of 9.3 that I'm running. So we see that the text has already been altered, and that part about blanking it out has been removed. So before making further changes to the wording, I would want to find the issue that made that change and look at the discussion there. I also like the suggestion of, well, I mean, maybe it's just good enough as it is. I mean, it comes up by default with the date and time that I started working on this form, which is not going to be too far off from the time that I submit the form, maybe. Do we really need an option to?
My only question is, if you hit the X for time, there next to the PM, yep, and you try to save, is that going to throw an error?
Have to fill out the required fields. And I assume this will give me an error.
Yeah. So we haven't directly addressed the issue's concern about it throwing an error if one is filled and the other is not. The only thing that I would consider in terms of changing the node is both having something that said both date and time required. Because it is hypothetically possible that an end user or content generator would not know that's a requirement. And it isn't clear from the form. You'd want to assume that someone would know that's what they had to fix. What was interesting, when you cleared out just the time and you went to save it, it cleared out the date and the time.
No. I did that manually.
Oh, you did do that manually? Okay. Maybe I wasn't paying enough attention. So if you cleared out the time, it just threw the error on the time, and then you cleared out the date as well. Okay.
Yeah.
Oh,
so
to get it to, okay.
Clear out just the time, you get an error. I assume if you clear out the date and leave the time, you also get an error. Yes. And if you clear both of them, then I guess it's now an undocumented feature that if you clear both of them, it will save with the current timestamp.
Yeah, so
and that updated by 53 seconds or so. I'm sorry, go ahead.
No, so I think this is a situation of where, yes, we could maybe make the help text more better, but we're already seeing, I'm seeing multiple issues that could be solved by getting to the root, get to the root of the problem and implement something that fixes it. Because this is not just specific, this is across going to be the same, I presume the same pattern across all date time fields that are on the site. I don't know if they pre-populate, is that maybe that's a setting, but in this case, the other problem I see is that field is not set as required. And the reason it's not set as required is because you're supposed to be able to empty it, save it. But then when you save it, it populates at the current time. Now you'd think normally with a field, if you empty the body, for instance, and you save that, the body doesn't get populated with some other piece of text. So I almost want that field to be marked as required, but have a button that sets it to the current time and date, because that's fundamentally the behavior that you get. It's just that the way it's implemented is not, I think, is not ideal.
Okay, I see that Antonia and Gabor have also joined us. So now we have a somewhat larger group. Thanks for coming. And we're discussing this issue, 2779185, about the behavior of the authored on field, which, judging by my test, the issue looks like it's somewhat out of date. Some changes have already been made here, and we're discussing the authored on field. What happens if you blank out one or the other or both of the date and time.
I'm guessing that with the simplification of the text to the time the node was created, it becomes less critical that we change the behavior or change the wording. So the question becomes, is this a big enough issue? I have more broader philosophical problems with just the entire wording of calling this authoring, and the way you have like the date time stamp by admin one on year, month, day, but then we have authored on, and that goes month, day, year. It's so you have inconsistent label. Like there's so many more issues here that I think are more important to me. I wouldn't want to waste time on this issue personally, because I think that the wording change makes it less ambiguous. You either don't know the feature exists or you know the feature exists.
I would point out that what we're probably seeing here is that the year, month, day is Drupal's default thing, default time formatter here, whereas the time format in the field will be what Benji's browser is currently producing, and which on its own is an interesting is interesting to see happen.
I in fact think we should just close this issue as outdated because this change has already been made. It no longer says that if you clear out the time, then it'll use the current time. It no longer says that.
Yep. No, I agree. That's what I was saying with too many words. So I concur.
I do have, we don't usually use the word node in the UI like that anymore, do we? It would be interesting to actually see what issue implemented that, because I would have, if we'd looked at that, if we'd had that issue presented, I would have probably suggested content instead of node there. Maybe this is a good use case for that git blame command.
I use it all the time. That's one of the great things about Git. Oh, and I see that Christina Chumias has also joined. Welcome.
Sorry, go ahead.
I was just saying hi.
Hi there.
So I think we can wrap this up, and the only question is who would like to volunteer to post a comment on the issue? And I would recommend not closing it immediately, but recommending that it be closed as outdated. And consider opening a new issue to talk about a different user interface for this with a checkbox. I would suggest an initially unchecked checkbox, and if it's unchecked, then when the form is first created when adding a new node, the default behavior will be to use the submission time of the form, and then if you check the box, then it presents the field and lets you enter something custom. This is, by the way, something that only very privileged users have access to. Most users can't change this value at all. So it's only lazy people like me who log in as an administrator with all permissions who typically see this. Normal content editors won't see this. So I don't hear anyone volunteering, so I guess I have to do it.
I'll write it up if I can get the ID again. Sorry, I didn't actually go to the page.
There's a link in the issue for the usability meeting, and that's already posted to the Slack channel.
Okay. I'll go check for that then.
Okay, thank you, Thomas. So several people joined while we were in that discussion. Do any of you have issues you'd like to bring up?
Not for me.
Okay. And I guess, shall we look at the issue that Ralph added? So let me do the trick of opening the same page twice so that I can see it. This is issue 2860419. Appearance page is too long and confusing. I have a feeling we've discussed this at a previous usability meeting, but quite some time ago. And the appearance admin page presents a long list of available themes. In particular, the uninstalled themes group is very long, and many test themes don't have screenshots. If I remember correctly, that only happens if you sort of enable some development setting, maybe in settings.php to show the test themes, and most of the time you won't see that. But anyway, Ralph, would you like to explain your comment on this issue?
I could go through it quickly. Basically, where is that? I've added 2 screenshots, one for the current look in Claro, and then I did a mock-up based on Claro. As a disclaimer, I'm not a designer, so no intention to give any design ideas there. And I just went through the points on the appearance page where I have problems. But in the beginning of the comments, I referred to the comments by Yoroi and by you, Benji. And then I started to get into the details. Basically, if you take a look at the current situation, you have 2 concepts. You have, on one hand, on the cards, the actual buttons like settings or set as default, uninstall, and so forth, which trigger direct actions, which is unusual. For example, you could set as default and then the theme changes directly. And then at the bottom of the page, you have another concept where you have basically a form where you set the administration theme, as well as have a checkbox, use the administration theme when editing or creating the content, and you have a submit button. So basically 2 different concepts, and for the user, it's a bit confusing. The next point is the concept which I struggled a long time with when I started with Drupal was the point with it is on the extend page, it's more or less hidden now because adding a new module is with the add module button. Previously, it was an install new module button. And then you have the list of installed modules. Here on the themes page, you have installed themes and uninstalled themes. And for me, as a starting user, it was confusing. Is that sort of a list of previously installed themes which are removed from Drupal as well as removed from the file system, or it always made me think. And that was the basis basically for the other screenshot and the mock-up I made to deal with those. At first, in the first step, make 2 prominent cards, one for the default theme, the chosen one, as well as for the admin theme. Then have a list for installed themes, and then one list for the uninstalled themes. What was the next point? Yeah, the next point is basically currently in the title of a theme, it is packed with information. For example, you have Olivero, then the version number 9.3.0-dev, then in brackets, default theme and experimental theme. So you have a long list of information packed into one single line. So if you get as a new user onto a page, on that appearance page, to figure out what, for example, is the default theme and what is, for example, experimental theme, or what is the version of a particular theme, is cumbersome. And in one part, using those dedicated default theme and admin theme sections would be a solution. Then just use the name of the theme as a title, use a separate line. I suggested it just as an idea, just a version, a separate line underneath the description. It could be over, or I'm not a designer. And the other point might be to use some sort of labels, like exactly label it, color code it may be with core, experimental, and also one to show that it's a sub-theme. The next point, it was, then I'm not entirely sure if it is possible at all, but the point I initially mentioned, those two concepts with the buttons leading to direct actions and the form at the bottom, if possible, to remove the form at the button and move the checkbox up to the section of the admin theme, as well as make those buttons like, for example, set as default to select boxes, so that you have only the available option for the particular theme shown. For example, for Claro, set as default, or set as admin, or set as default and admin. And what was, it's been a while, but then I wrote it up. Basically, it's a rough initial description. Best would be just to quickly read through at another time. But yeah, it's a rough description verbally now.
So let's, since this is the usability meeting, let's focus on the usability questions here and leave design questions for later.
The design meeting.
Yes.
No, sorry, go ahead. No, but I agree.
So for usability, you know, are things actionable? Can we see, do we have a link to the issue?
1 second, I can paste it.
Thanks. So I think the organization is certainly a usability thing, and I personally like the suggestion that we move the default theme and the admin theme to the top, rather than the current practice, which is among the installed themes to add to the card that it is the default theme, and add to the card that it is the administration theme. So I like that suggestion. And I do also like the idea of putting just the name of the theme as the title of the card and moving the version elsewhere. That's sort of borderline between usability and design. And then the other big usability issue here is this sort of hybrid form structure that you point out, where we have a traditional form with submit button at the bottom, but then we also have these links that directly perform actions. Christina, did you want to say something more?
Probably I agree with what you said. I mean, the new it will make a lot of sense to actually have the version or anything that it's not the title below the title. I can imagine a few ways of, on a design perspective, to make that happen, to make a proposal for that. I think so. In general, most of the proposals here, I 200% agree with them. But I think they should be split on different issues because probably this, what we're seeing here, like the redistribution, for example, it's something that doesn't require any design. And maybe the user administration theme when editing or creating content, I'm not sure if we actually have that right now on the appearance page.
It is. It's from the appearance page.
Okay, so it's already there. So, okay, then it's been moved. Okay. Good point. And is so the action to mark something as the admin theme is what you were saying, like on this like the drop down or something like that, right?
Yeah. And that's one point I forgot. It's a bit confused right now because I haven't really prepared. But the point is, at the moment, on a theme level, you don't know if a theme is eligible only to be a front-end theme or an admin theme. And that leads to the problem also on the current situation. At the select box, you have a list of front-end themes, admin themes in one long list. And for a new user, it's quite challenging to figure out what could be used where. And it's also the case I've learned that, for example, a theme could be used as default theme as well as admin theme at the same time. That should also be taken in consideration. But if you would have the option to, for example, in the info YAML file of a theme to define theme is eligible as front-end theme and admin theme, for example, so it would narrow down the options in the set as default and set as admin select. And the user couldn't go wrong in any case. And it would be a leaded effort. And one detail I also forgot to mention, this is something I learned from Andy Olsen. The case to see in one look, for example, if you take a look at the admin theme section with Chin, in the suggestion you see requires Claro, but also it could be stacked. For example, you have Claro, but one level underneath another theme. So you can definitely see at one look, I have a chain of 2 or 3 themes we're building onto the current active, for example, default theme. And that would be quite helpful from his perspective.
Okay. I think it makes a lot of sense actually reorganize all this information. Actually, yeah. I mean, what we did when we created this was basically making everything nicer, look nicer. So I really think all of these improvements that you're suggesting make a lot of sense. I'm afraid that if we try to put everything on the same issue, it's going to become a never-ending story issue.
Yeah.
And I think that maybe it would be smarter to split several things. Like, for example, adding this classification that you have right now in here, probably like default theme, admin theme, installed themes, like this could probably like a reordering issue, or well, what other people think about splitting this issue on several issues.
Yeah,
Because I can see, sorry, go ahead.
Yeah, I was going to say I would agree with that, and I think for example, I really like the idea of sort of how that's laid out there with having the default theme and the admin theme. But there is the use case, and it's a really valid use case of having the default theme and the admin theme being the same theme. And I have Drupal sites that use that, and it's not like the 80% use case, obviously, but there is a use case for doing that. So I wouldn't want us to create a paradigm where a theme could only be the admin theme or only be the front end theme. But I think this definitely has promise, and yeah, we definitely need a space to explore how this behaves when you have the same theme as the admin theme, the default theme. Like, is there just one section along the top? Then it's like admin and default theme. Like, how would that behave? So
yeah, exactly.
Yeah, totally agree with what you're saying there, Christina, and what Benji said.
I would think like what I would think is I would split between changes on the page and changes on the card itself. And maybe if we have to do changes on the YAML file to have like extra info, like the one that you were saying about this is not an admin prepared theme or something like that. I will put that into another issue. Like I would say right now, I would say like 3 issues.
Antonia, did you have something to say?
I have a wild idea. I really love those badges, by the way, the core experimental flags and stuff like that. I agree that we have multiple issues here. Some of them design related, others usability issues. But to me, the worst of them all has always been the the cards. I know we've been talking about those cards a lot, but I hate the fact that we have those actions on them. In a perfect world, the cards would just be teasers that lead to a preview page of the theme, because the only way you could really see the theme is to install and enable it. You don't really get a preview of the theme apart from the small screenshot we have there. So in a perfect world, I would click on a card and be presented with a page containing like buttons and drop downs with the current theme applied, so that I can get a feel of I can get an idea, I guess, of the look and feel of the UI of the theme, sort of. I just know that this is a lot of work, and it is not something that can be boiled down to a single issue. But I am curious to know what others think about that.
Yeah, I think in the chat, Aaron says he likes your idea. And also in the chat, Offer says that the latest patch on the issue is not valid for current version of core.
Yeah, the patch itself was made 4 years ago, so that would make sense.
Yeah, it's an old issue, but I was asking on a contrib day if it was reasonable to create a new issue or edit my comments to an existing one, and we decided to go with a comment, and in case it's a positive reception, then either split it up or create new issues or so forth. But as a starting point, that would be the most appropriate, we decided. But yeah, definitely no patches.
Yeah, no, what I meant, I love the issue and dealing with it. I said the status of the issue itself was changed last, I think by you, like 10 days ago to needs review. And I think
I
that's
said
the confusing part.
Sorry, but I thought it was mandatory to get a place in the usability meeting to set a issue back to review. Therefore, I set it to review regarding the comment. Therefore, that was on my end.
Oh no! If you want to bring an issue to the meeting, you don't have to set the status to anything.
Okay. And just one comment about Antonia's suggestion. I like it very much as well. To have, if you have the cards with the necessary information, and then to get a preview inside, that might be circumvent the problem with the buttons we have currently. So might ease things, perhaps even.
Yeah, and I really I thought that was a really good idea. And actually, it's probably not as hard to implement as it might first see, because we already have something in core that does that. Like the blocks module basically has that already built in, but it more designed for blocks, where you can preview all the regions of a theme, and you can see when you go into blocks pages, you can see what it looks like in the theme. So the good thing is for that, we kind of already have a starting point there for it. We probably just would need to adapt it slightly to work and add a sort of area for setting what you want to do with it.
So I think this is what you're referring to.
Yeah, I think that's it. Yeah, there you
go.
Not this exactly, but we could too.
Yeah, this is pretty ugly. This is not what Antonio is suggesting.
The groundwork is there, Not this, yeah.
But anyway, I think everyone agrees that that this needs to be converted to a meta issue, and we need to create several new issues to talk about the various proposals we've come up with. So one issue is to adopt some of the ideas on this mockup, such as putting the default and admin theme at the top. Another issue is to have some resolution to form or not form. A third issue is to provide the title and the version and so forth, and maybe some of these flags, provide those variables to the theme so that the theme can then decide how to present them and suggest some change of how these cards are formatted. And I think I'm up to 4 now, is to have Antonia's suggestion, which is that we have a better preview of the theme, which I guess you also thought was tied to the form or not form question. Christina, do you want to say something? I see you're unmuted.
No, sorry, I just forgot that. Unmuted.
Okay. So I think we have at least 4 new issues to create. And again, we need a volunteer to actually do the issue management, or perhaps more than one volunteer. So who wants to volunteer for what piece?
I'd volunteer, to at least write down what I said previously, but I am not a designer and I cannot come up with a design concept for that.
I think just creating the issues and just saying this is what needs to be done. It's more than enough. And then yeah, you can even paste it on the UX channel or on the admin UI channel, but just creating the issues and explaining the issue on the summary doesn't make you responsible for coming up with a solution. So
Yes,
if
I
you
would,
want to create,
really appreciate your input regarding design.
yeah, for sure. Don't worry. I can just, if somebody creates the issues, and we can come up with a solution for this.
Yes,
For
I
the
will
design,
gladly
so
do that.
thanks.
And you can create it as a child issue of the one we've been looking at.
Okay.
Ralph, would you like to convert it to a meta issue and make some of the other child issues?
I'm not sure if I'm allowed to change the status of the existing issue to meta because I haven't created the issue.
Yes.
But aside that, I could also chop up the other points to child issues. Yeah, I could do that based on the description I already wrote. And yeah, it's also on my end open for feedback in regards that I could refine the description in the direction of each child issue.
Yeah. And I think an important observation that's totally appropriate for usability discussions is that sometimes getting something started is a big block. So creating an issue, even though it's just filling out a form, writing a few sentences, that's an important contribution. And sometimes that's the, making that step unlocks further progress on it, and other people are happy to contribute, but creating an issue is a big step, sort of cognitively. So we are getting close to the end of the hour. I think we've wrapped up this, and we've got some follow-up, and I think it would be nice if we come back to this over the next few months and try to make some progress on this. Any other last remarks?
Thanks for bringing this up. For creating this issue and working on that, because I think it's really useful, the changes.
You're welcome. Thank you.
Yeah, just one final thought. Just and yeah, thanks for all that effort. And just as a side, there's a topic under discussion we're discussing in the UX channel. If anybody wants to chip in about what to potentially rename some page titles and rename some tabs. So it's a discussion in the UX channel. If anybody wants to further contribute to it, to do with sort of field UI tabs.
Right, and for the sake of the recording, I think that discussion will be moved to this issue 2514218, which is that page manage fields, manage form, manage display should include name of content type or entity.
Yeah.
One
we need to translate the discussion into the issue now.
One comment about last week, I said I would comment on the issue, but beforehand I read through the issue again, and there were a few hard requirements which narrowed out a few of our suggestions we made. I made a comment last week to the issue on Slack we had, to the conversation on Slack we had, and asked for for opinions in regards. I don't want it to place our results in there because they interfere with the basic requirements stated in the. I've provided links to the particular comments of the issue.
Okay,
Therefore,
I do,
I've waited.
Thanks, yeah.
I do want to be respectful of people's time. We've gone a little bit over, and we will continue working on these issues.
Yep.
So thank you. Oh, and next week will be NedCamp. I expect we'll have some new people attending the meeting because of that. This meeting next week will also be a session at that Drupal camp. See you then.
Looking forward to that. Thanks.
Thanks, Benji. Thanks,
Yeah.
everyone.
Thank
Thanks,
you.
everybody.
Bye bye.
Bye.